Every time I go somewhere that is remotely related to the indie game genre, I see this guy that looks like he doesn't have a single thought behind his head come up on my screen. Oh hey look, it's Penguin Z0. Whoa, wait, what the? And seeing this guy everywhere got me thinking, how the hell does a game with a main character that has a beetle for a head become one of the most popular indie games in history? I even found out that this game eventually got so popular to the point that it has more positive reviews on Steam than Undertale itself. Milk! And since the only thing I knew about the game is that it's really good, I wanted to look into the game's history and find out from the day it's born how Hollow Knight became so popular and if the game is as good as people say it is. And a lot of people say it's popular because it's one of the greatest games of all time. But back then, not a lot of people knew about that. This game was pretty underground when it was first announced. It started off as a passionate group of people announcing it on Kickstarter. And they were just asking for a few bucks to continue production for the game. And for a game as popular as it is right now, I expected for the Kickstarter to have like $3 billion in funding. But it's actually the complete opposite. Only got like $57,000 in Australian money, which is like 36 grand in USD, which, you know, reached their Kickstarter goal, but it was nowhere close to what I was thinking it was gonna be. And with that 36 grand, or like 57 Australian, I don't freaking know. Years passed by and they finally were able to make the game and release it. And when the game was released, did people like it? It started off pretty decent in terms of popularity when the game first came out. But then out of nowhere, this game just absolutely blew up. And I'm trying to think about why the hell this game just exploded in a random day at a random time. To answer this question, I have to talk about the game. And honestly, in terms of first impressions, the game starts off with a solid 1,000 people playing the game every day. I mean, at first, it makes sense because I had no idea what I was doing when I first started off the game. In the first few minutes, you start off Hollow Knight, it literally just introduces you with a really eerie quote, a jump scare, and a short cutscene that explains nothing and puts you in a barren wasteland.
Ow.
When I played the game more, I found more. And when I found more, I found more things. And when I found more things, I found more enemies. And when I found more enemies, I found more music, more mysteries, more places, more people, more everything. Hollow Knight took every element a game has and changed it or completely reworked it to make it better, and the way they do it is amazing.
What
I think that made people keep on playing this game is that the game left you breadcrumbs to find out as to what place you're in, what's going on, and it's your job as the player to trace that breadcrumb trail and find that bread. Like, this game is about a funny looking guy, right? Then why in God's name does this game look so good? The line art is crisp and it complements its charming design that builds an atmosphere so thick I can almost die in it. Wait, is that a bomb? But amazing visuals isn't enough for me to get satisfied to know that's the answer of why this game has over 300,000 positive reviews and sold over like 1 million copies. Even one of the creators of the game during an interview mentioned that they only found out that they were doing something right only after they reached their Kickstarter goal. And looking into more reasons why people like this game so much, I started going through all the Steam reviews that people posted. And a lot of them are literally just pictures of the characters in the game. And honestly, I think it's because of the genius way the game utilizes these visuals and makes these characters so much more likable and iconic than any other game I've seen. What I mean by that is that there's still signs of what used to be their own made-up culture that are all dead and possessed and just icky. And you pop into a cavern and you get these eerie drip drops in the background that accompany this depressing as hell music. And yet when you meet these funky looking guys that are just over here making weird ass noises, it brings so much life to the game and just makes it funny to look at. And it makes so much sense as to why there's so much merch of these guys. As people discover the game, a few months pass by and all of a sudden, the daily player count spikes to 6 times its normal amount. So what the hell happened that got Hollow Knight into the big spotlight literally only 4 months after its release? Well, for some reason, doing this one small change at the perfect time changed everything for this game's future. That one small change was literally just putting the game on 30% off sale. And that perfect time was none other than the Steam Summer Sale. And that's all it took to sextuple the game's player count. So yeah, it's insane that this one small change put this game into spotlight to an insane degree. There's got more people talking about the game, some even mentioning that the gameplay, we already got one guy comparing this game to Dark Souls. And I honestly couldn't tell if it's just journalists trying to say buzzwords or if people genuinely believe that the idea of this somehow compares to Dark Souls. And I looked into this a bit more and I found out that one of the guys that even made the game has even played Dark Souls. So I can definitely see that the developers didn't really aim to make their game similar to Dark Souls so that it can be a really popular game. Well, I think the game looking good, having funny looking characters, and being on sale at the right time are good reasons as to why this game is one of the most popular games of all time. I think there is one bigger reason as to how this game finalized its position there. And all started when the guys at Team Cherry, for some reason, was like, you know what? We already made an amazing game. Let's give it a DLC. Team Cherry ended up adding 4 free DLCs to the game. One of which is what made Hollow Knight the game it is today, the Godmaster DLC. The thing that I didn't mention throughout this entire video is that during the entire history of all this, there was a slowly growing Hollow Knight community that, you know, when a video gets 10 million views just talking about the lore of Hollow Knight, I feel like saying that the community helped this game get popular is an understatement. This final DLC gave people so much more things for people to do and talk about. They even made theories talking about the game's stories and debunk other people's theories that they also made about the game's story. And did I mention that it gave birth to literally one of the biggest speedrunning communities I have ever seen in my life. They made so many videos that gained millions of views for just people doing speedruns and like hit list runs and freaking. And there's also videos of other people debunking other speedrun challenges. Why is there so much debunking going on? And these guys stoked the flame for this game for years, to always find something new for millions of people to be interested in this game and for others to look forward to probably the most anticipated sequels I've ever seen for a game in my life. And according to Steam itself, Hollow Knight's sequel stands as the 3rd most wishlisted game on Steam. Here's the thing though, everything that I just talked about regarding the community is what made the game probably one of the most popular indie games of all time. But with that popularity, how did it get that reputation of being the greatest game of all time? The lore part of Hollow Knight is what I get. Piecing together Hollow Knight's lore is incredibly mysterious and would require an incredible amount of research trying to get together what the hell happened in this game. But why would people speedrun this game? Is it just because people love the game so much? Or is it actually fun playing the game with making hour-long challenges? So I tried to find out for myself as to why these challenges these guys were doing were so popular and why they even wanted to do it in the first place. And I felt like the only way I can figure this out, not by texting them, is if I beat this game myself and find out. And when I finally beat him, my mind only thought of one thing when the credits rolled. That's it? I honestly thought my search for finding out why this game was so popular is over. But little did I know that when the credits rolled is when the game actually starts. This is only one of the endings the game has to offer, out of 5 that there is in the game. 6 if you count this mushroom guy. And since I didn't find everything as to what made this game a masterpiece, I had no choice but to spend the last month and a half trying to get each and every ending, including getting the 4th ending. Like, the path that you take trying to get this one ending is the most complex, convoluted, disgustingly hard thing I've ever seen in a game. To get this one ending, you would have to beat almost each and every single boss in the game, all 42, back to back, all in one sitting, without dying a single time. And to a lot of people, getting this ending is an achievement to prove that they mastered Hollow Knight. To me, as some guy that was just curious about why there's so much art and plushies about Hollow Knight, it was a requirement for me to beat this challenge. And after what felt like 30 hours of constantly practicing and making attempts to beat the 42 bosses in a row, I finally got to the final boss. And only then did I actually finally understand why people say this is one of the greatest indie games in history. What happened when I got there was that my hands were shaking. My little guy was moving like crazy, and the only thing I can think about is this godforsaken moth. The pressure really starts setting in. If I lose this fight, I have to go back and beat all those 42 bosses again, and this won't stop up until I beat this one final boss. But I found out that the reason my hands were shaking, not because I was scared, but because I was excited to finally use everything that I learned about in this game. All 100 hours I've spent playing this game, not once growing tired of how fun it is to play Hollow Knight, and finally beat this annoying ass moth. And finally, after I beat this moth and did one of the hardest challenges this game has to offer, I can finally say with confidence that this experience of a game has every good reason to be as popular as it is. From its funny ass characters, its absurdly crisp art, and amazing music, and with enough gameplay to the point that I wanted to break my keyboard over the table multiple times, Hollow Knight has every reason to stand as one of the most popular games in history. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot getting your ending too. Alright, I have a few things I want to say. I want to say really quick because it's funny. I thank you so much for 1K. Very, very cool. I also set up a Patreon. Support me there if you want. And also, the reason why this video took so long is because my computer blew up.